That's the approach to make. I think when we ask for we just kind of wait for a blanket response. I'm just worried that this board might, get a response and say, well, it doesn't really fit. It doesn't say we can do rebates, so we're not going to do it. That's a real concern of mine, and I'm being totally honest.
I honestly appreciate that and appreciate your position with respect to the public, and I don't see an issue there as far as a difference. I really don't.
So my question would be then, and I don't know, you said you're not entitled to speak for the entire board, but I would suggest that we have a meeting in the very near future, in a matter of days, not weeks, where we can sit down and start to come up with a scheme by which we can look at what we would like to do, come up with a model that we can then take to the Commonwealth Finance Authority and to the DCED and say, this is what we want to do based on the regulations. There's no prohibition against doing it, so let's get it done. And I think that that's a process that we could work on with your board, with my office, with as a liaison for the state, with the supervisors, and finally be on the same page. And as you said, do the right thing, and all be on the same page for what the right thing is.
I agree with you. And in fact, I don't know if you got the message or not, but several weeks ago, you had said, maybe it was actually more a month ago, I called your office and made that invitation personally so that we could do maybe even a one-on-one, because I wanted to, and I'm glad you're here tonight, because I want to understand a little better what your concerns are.
Sure.
So that, we can do that right thing. And we can, if rebating and refunding tap-in fees is the direction that we're going to go, then there are issues beyond that as to how that's going to be worked out and done. And I think that way, it would be nice if we were able to get your support through that phase as well. So.
Absolutely, and I'm back. Like I said, I just got back I was on the House floor 4 hours ago, and I've been on the turnpike ever since. So, didn't speed either, much, but yeah, I'll be home for the next couple of weeks. So I would, I'll have my office call down to the authority office tomorrow. We can set something up. Like I said, I spoke with Mr. Camerson.
There, I was speaking. Certainly when I called your office, I was speaking for myself personally. Now, I guess if we were to meet with the authority, that's kind of a little, that's a different thing that we'll coordinate through there. But either way. Yeah,
either way. But I think if we're going to actually sit down and, it's rug cutting time. Yeah. And if we're going to sit down and get serious about it, I think we need to have everybody in the room and work out all of our issues and get on the same page. And my concern is I'm being as blunt as I can be, is that this is going to drag on and drag on and drag on. And meanwhile, the money's going to come in, and it's going to get done, and we'll miss our opportunity. And I would hope that wouldn't be the case. So I look forward to sitting and working with you, and I think that everybody in this room would feel the same way, would feel that same amount of appreciation, and hopefully we can be down here again under better circumstances. Okay. So thank you.
I actually have one question.
Yes, sir.
Assuming that we are able to give back on these tap-in fees, and that's an assumption that we don't know, and that's why we haven't said or done anything. Assuming we cannot do that, what would you recommend we do?
If we cannot do it?
If under the terms of the program of granting the money, that we are unable to make that refund. We've made inquiry, our engineers have inquired out the program to find out what the outline is and what the parameters are of it. So that we can formulate something to tell everybody of what we're going to do.
And my concern was and I read the letter that you sent. It doesn't really say in there we want to give a refund on tap-in fees. But
I mean, we could want to give every penny back. But that doesn't mean that that's going to happen if we're allowed to do that.
Right. As it stands right now, I see what you're saying. My concern is I've read the H2OPA guidelines, and I've talked with people. There is nothing that I've found so far that prohibits a refund. Now, there's a bit of a confusion as to when you say we want to use the grant money to refund tap-in fees. True, the grant money cannot be used for the state to directly give money back to the people. That's not allowed, and I think we're all on the same page with that. There's some confusion there, I think, among residents. But the way I interpret it, if the municipal authority is refunded for the cost of doing the lines of everything that was permissible, there's nothing stopping the municipal authority, because you were going to have an influx of cash that you didn't anticipate when this was started, from giving that money back on your own. And that is the model that I see in my mind. And the way I look at it is, if this money, and to be fair, this H2OPA project grant fund did not exist when the project was started. But if it had, and if you had gotten this money up front, you could have used it to pay for construction, and it would have reduced it by, it would have eliminated, or not eliminated, but it would have substantially reduced the tap-in fee on the front end. Because this is a reimbursement grant, I don't see any reason why we can't use that to reimburse on the back end. And my concern is, like I said, when I read that letter, I thought, I know that there are so many projects that were approved for this grant, and there's so much correspondence going back and forth, and they only have so many people there to deal with all this, because I don't think they know the history and they know the situation that we're in. They wouldn't necessarily read your letter and say, hey, I bet they want to do a refund of tap-in fees, let's tell them they can do it. So that was my concern.
Excuse me, Mr. Representative, that was one of the issues that we specifically raised in that letter to them, is can we, refund tap-in fees? So, we do want to have that on the table. We want to get clarity on that, and if there's some gray area in the interpretation of that, certainly your help at clarifying that end would certainly be helpful. And personally, I looked at that whenever we received that money. If there was a way to turn back the hands of time to whenever the project was starting, as to how we would have dispersed that money at that time, part of it would have certainly reduced the tap-in fee. And to that extent, we've asked our engineers to make those calculations, kind of making those assumptions. If we had that, recalculate the tap-in fee and do some of that work. So we do have a lot of that going on behind the scenes, but again, that's where we haven't come out publicly because of the sensitivity of that.
Excuse me, Ken, if I may, Mr. Wood, I'm referring to a letter that was drafted by KLH engineers.
They weren't copied on it.
Unless there be any misunderstanding as to precisely what was asked of the DCED. It said, based on the fact and the high tap fees enacted to assist in the financing of the project, the authority and other township representatives are inquiring as to the possibility of utilizing the H2O funds to provide a partial reimbursement of the tap fees that have been paid to date by the users.
And
We weren't copied on that letter.
we weren't?
No, we weren't copied on that letter. We only received the letter from the municipal authority.
Yeah, I was going to say, that doesn't seem like anything I would...
Independent of that issue, that's what
Okay, well-
communicated.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. And
your office was copied on that letter, because when we sent
No,
the letter
we
to
weren't.
you, I attached a copy of that same letter with the letter we addressed to you. So I'll correct the amendment in that.
No, with all due respect, sir, we weren't copied on the letter. Thank you.
We're copied.
Okay.
it doesn't matter. This is exactly why
I agree with
we
you.
are where we're at. It doesn't
matter.
matter.
It doesn't matter. What matters is what's in the letter.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. And